Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. Today is a massive news day. There's been big news in Butler involving the which, you know, it's almost been a year. We're coming up on a year. It'll be this weekend since President Trump was shot in Butler, and the Secret Service has suspended 6 agents that were assigned to protect Trump during the Butler assassination attempt. I'm going to go through an article on this in just a moment, but I want to ask you a couple questions. Do you remember where you were when President Trump was shot in Butler? I do. You know, when I was growing up, I would hear people all the time tell you where they were when Kennedy was shot. And you know, when that generation that was around, because that was before I was born, okay, 8 years before I was born, but those that were around, they remember exactly where they were when they heard Kennedy was shot. You could go to someone that has the most severe case of Alzheimer's and in hospice care in a nursing home. They don't know their name. They don't know where they are. Their kids come in the room. They don't know who they are. You ask them where they were and who they were with when Kennedy was shot, they'll tell you like that. You know, and, you know, there's certain moments in life when, you know, that happens. I remember where I was when I found out the Challenger exploded. I remember where I was and who I was with exactly, and the minutes and everything around it when the president was shot in Butler. And, you know, one of the big differences between Butler and JFK is that when President Kennedy was shot, and by the way, Kennedy and Trump were shot by the same people with some variations, which will come up as we discuss this. But when President Kennedy was shot in Dallas, people didn't have the distrust of the government that they have now. I'm sure there were people that were running around that were, you know, had distrust of the government to some extent, but it wasn't as distrust of the government of the United States and the deep state was not common. Today, no one trusts the government, right? Everyone's suspicious, right? And we have good reason for that. You know, that generation that was around then was, you know, the greatest generation, the World War II generation, and they just didn't question the morality of the government of the United States. But, you know, they lived in a time before the deep state was established. So now it's out there, and most of us, like me, we don't know a time when the deep state was running everything. So when President Trump was shot, and I was watching it on Right Side Broadcasting, and it's like you remember where you were on 9/11. The whole thing, it was such a strange time because I remember I always watch the Trump rallies on Right Side Broadcasting. Don't you guys? RSBN, they're awesome. And what I usually do, especially during the campaign when we have regular rallies every day and on the weekends and sometimes multiple rallies, I have Right Side on all day in the background, and they'll give you, you'll get a general idea of what time he's going to come out. And then I turn the volume up, make sure I got the volume up, and Trump is always late to his rallies, always late. So because, you know, he's got a lot going on. He's got a meet and greet, photo ops and everything before he comes out on stage. You know, there's a big to-do for him before he comes out on stage. So I always have it on in the background. And when I hear Lee Greenwood's great music, I know it's time. But I turned it on and I say, I've got anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. And I'm doing some stuff around the house. And the next thing I know, he comes out right on time. Right on time, on the dot, which was very unusual. It caught me off guard, and then just a few minutes later it happened. So why was he on time for the first time, maybe ever, at a rally? It's almost like they had to have him there at a certain time. You know, and Elon Musk pointed this out on Joe Rogan. He said it was the only rally of the campaign that CNN covered live, and there'd been I don't know how many rallies up until that point. Why was CNN carrying the rally on time? You know, there's so many questions, and there's Ukrainian connections to this guy. We know there's to the shooter. There's deep state connections, no doubt. So the people from the protective detail, this is the beginnings of the first true investigation into Butler, Pennsylvania. How did it happen? How was it allowed to happen? Why were there so many around the president who were incompetent? Like, remember the woman that couldn't find her holster? She was trying to holster her gun. She couldn't find her holster. Now, the people that were with him in the immediate vicinity on the stage, they did everything right. One of them is now the Secret Service director. They did everything right. They jumped on top of him. They were protecting him and everything else. They did everything right. But right outside of that immediate circle, it was a disaster. Even the sharpshooters on the roof, who for some reason didn't pick up on the shooter, even though everybody in the crowd did a long time before, and it was all kinds of weird behavior. So, you know, here we've got the first investigation. This article, this is in the New York Post. Let me go through this. 6 members of the Secret Service have been suspended. Now, this is an interesting thing because not everyone there on the protective detail was Secret Service. They brought some people in from Homeland Security, and I believe they said those overweight women, including the one that couldn't find her holster, was from Homeland, not Secret Service. So that's interesting. So this is not from the other agencies. This is Secret Service, according to the New York Post. 6 members of the Secret Service have been suspended for failures related to last year's assassination attempt against President Trump at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The suspension for the 6 agents range from 10 to 42 days, and they won't be paid while on leave. The agents will not be fired, but upon return to work, they'll be placed in roles with diminished operational responsibility. We aren't going to fire our way out of this, the deputy director of the Secret Service said. What else have they said? It was the 13th. So it's 3 days from now, will be 1 year. Trump was struck in the ear by one of the bullets fired by the would-be assassin, whose name I don't use. July 13th, 2024. I got goosebumps. You know, I'm wearing... And right now, I'm wearing a Trump shirt in Butler when he got up covered in blood and said, "Fight, fight, fight." And I'm wearing this shirt just by coincidence. So strange. You know, I got up, I got out of the shower. I go into I have a drawer with my T-shirts, and it's dark. Most of my T-shirts are black. I can't see anyway because it's dark. I don't want to wake my wife up. I grabbed a T-shirt randomly, and it was this one. And this is before I even knew about what happened with these Secret Service agents. So now this will be the beginning of an investigation, okay, as to how all of this was allowed to happen. And we know that the assassin had at least one number. He had multiple cell phones. He had one number that was a Ukrainian number. And then the golf course assassin, he had a lot of Ukrainian connections too. I'm not going to go through everything about this. But I'm here to tell you we've had a rough couple of days with this Pam Bondi mess. With everything that's been going on, all right? This is the second major move we've gotten from the great Trump administration getting to the bottom of things we want to get to the bottom of. This is the beginning of the true Butler investigation, right? The criminal investigation by the FBI of Comey and Brennan. You know, Brennan was a known communist, and he was still made CIA director by Obama. So those are 2 major lawfare attacks on the president that are going on here. You know, the only reason that Trump survived in Butler is because the girl that did all the audio visual, they had the screen on the other side of the stage. You know, this was so planned, and the shooter, his cue was when Trump went to that graph of the invasion of the border, because he did it in every rally. And because it was on the other side of the stage, his head was turned in a different direction, and he wasn't prepared for that. That's why he missed. It's amazing. It's a miracle. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean, I believe there was divine intervention in this. If this would have been any other rally, things would have turned out differently. And what their plan was, you got to remember this, what their plan was to nominate Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis as the VP. They were in the second and third place in the primaries. That was the plan. We all know this. Okay, this is well established. Everyone knows this. And this is the Butler, Comey, and Brennan. That's what we got to be focusing on. We got to move on from the Pam Bondi mess. Trump will make a decision on what to do with her, if anything. But we've covered it quite a bit. Not just me, everyone has covered this quite a bit. And the Never Trumpers are going to do what they can do. Remember, there's a lot of conservatives out there that are Never Trumpers, and a lot of them are fake MAGA, and every once in a while they out themselves. So the Never Trumpers are going to use this Pam Bondi mess this week to keep taking us back. Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to talk about it again. When there are developments, I will. Okay? There's one or two small developments today that if I have time, I'll get into, but there's so much to cover today. But don't get bogged down in that when so many great things are happening. Now, I want to tell you guys about Dr. Philip Appleton and his laser wave pain treatment. He rid me of pain for the first time 3 years ago in my knee. And I've talked about my knee all the time, and I couldn't remember what I did to cause this knee pain. It was my right knee, and I was in so much pain and it got worse as I got old. I was in pain since I was like 20 to somewhere around 20, 22-ish in my right knee. And it would come and go. And then as the years got on, it never went. It was just about how bad the pain was. And this is when we were at the radio studio in Boca. And if you go back to those old shows, if you watch me on YouTube and some of those old shows, you'll see me oftentimes, I always stand when I'm on the air. And I had a kind of like a stool chair that had a back on it. And I had that chair next to me on my left side, and I was always leaning on it because I wanted to take the weight off my right knee. And after Dr. Appleton treated me with the laser wave pain treatment in my knee, it was just, I didn't even realize it, but I stopped using the chair as kind of like a cane and started using it as a table for all my numbers for the commercials and everything, because I got to give you the numbers. When I'm talking about someone, so I don't give out someone's cell phone number or something by accident. Make sure you get the right number. And it's amazing. And I could never remember what it was that started that knee pain. That was the first of 7 times that Dr. Appleton rid me of pain. And then after I had a conversation with Dr. Appleton, I remembered. He told me, he says, Brian, the laser treatment works on injuries that people have from car accidents. And then I remembered. I was a passenger in a car accident, and a friend of mine was driving, and he drove over a median. Yes, we were out late, leaving a club, and he was driving, I wasn't. And he ran over a median and totaled his car, just totally destroyed the engine and everything underneath it. But when that accident happened, I tensed up. I was on the passenger side, put my feet, it's just an instinct, into the floor of the car, and the impact, that's what caused my knee that I suffered from pain in for like 30 years. And Dr. Appleton treated me with the laser treatment, and the pain is gone. And 3 years later, it's not returned. So if you've been in a car accident and you have pains related to a car accident, knees, neck, anything, go see Dr. Appleton. The laser treatment works. Remember, appointments are not necessary. Walk-ins are welcome, even on Saturdays. Here's his number, 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. Give him a call and say bye-bye to your pain. Online, AppletonCairo.com. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah, it hurt the kneecap. It hurt so bad, and it would flare, especially this time of year during hurricane season. It would flare up. I'm going to be talking about this later. Guys, today, they don't usually tell me this, at MyPillow, but today is the last day of the free With God, all things are possible, multi-use MyPillow 2.0 with any purchase. And by the way, you get that for free with any purchase, no matter how small it is, with our promo code Kane at checkout. Go to mypillow.com/Kane. This is the last day, and I don't know what time today the special will end. So make sure you go and do it. And, I brought into the studio one of my MyPillow towels. Even if you buy a MyPillow towel, you get the With God All Things Are Possible multi-use MyPillow 2.0 for free. It's a $39.98 value that you get for free. But today is the last day. mypillow.com/Kane, Kane, and use our promo code Kane. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane. Again, today is the last day of this special, so I'm going to be talking about it a lot today. That MyPillow 2.0 is such a great pillow. It's really the best of the MyPillows because it has that temperature regulating technology in it. So especially during these hot summer months, you won't be hot all night. And plus, you've got this great pillowcase with the passage from Matthew, with God all things are possible, completely free with any purchase with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. We'll be back shortly, guys. Less than a minute. We'll be back. We're back. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. Our number toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. Great news on the tragedy in Butler. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Yeah, speak up.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
How you doing? So, I just got a question for you. Do you feel comfortable supporting the most unconstitutional president ever?
The most what president ever?
The most unconstitutional president ever.
I'm not familiar with who's the most unconstitutional president ever?
Trump.
Trump. What makes him the most unconstitutional president?
The fact that...
Give me 1 second here. Hold on, 1 second here. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, what makes him the most unconstitutional president ever?
The fact that he has tried to change the 14th Amendment illegally.
How has he tried to change the 14th Amendment?
Dude, do you even know what he's tried to do with his executive order?
Well, I've got you. I've got you. No, I've got you to educate me. So what has he done to try to change the 14th Amendment?
He's trying to get rid of birthright citizenship, which is part of the 14th Amendment. He's trying to illegally change it without a constitutional amendment.
Okay. Well, the thing about slow down. By the way, where are you calling me from?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay. Well, here's the thing about here's the thing about birthright citizenship, okay? And everybody knows this because we used to learn about this in elementary school and in high school and junior high school when they used to teach social studies and civics. Now what they teach is, the 1619 Project and all kinds of other anti-American commie literature. But birthright citizen, excuse me, I'm answering your question. The birthright, excuse me, I'm speaking. Okay. The birthright citizenship was very specifically for two groups of people. First, it was for the newly freed slaves that the Democrats were holding in bondage that the Republicans freed. Because there was a question, are the freed slaves U.S. citizens? So they passed the 14th Amendment, established birthright citizenship to establish that the newly freed slaves were citizens. And in fact, that allowed black men who were slaves to vote. And it was also to establish, because the Indian Wars were going on, that Native American Indians were also U.S. citizens. It wasn't meant for people to come here from third world pits of hell and say, I'm here, here's my anchor baby.
That is not true. And I will explain why that's not true. One, for a constitutional amendment, it applies to everybody possible. That is how constitutional amendments work. Two, for Native Americans, that was a different law that enabled them to become citizens because that had to happen later. But the way that it was worded was because of diplomats, not because of slaves.
No, you're wrong. In fact, see, when the 14th Amendment was passed, when the 14th Amendment was passed, there's what's happened to the 14th Amendment, and you know this, you just don't want to admit it, but and liberals know this. At the time, what's happened is the left in this country, who don't care about the American people, they care about the South American people. They have knowingly misinterpreted it, okay, to further their agenda with their replacement of Americans with non-Americans. And when the amendment was passed, the legislators at the time, they couldn't see into the future that the borders of the United States would be erased and Invasion USA would take place nonstop, and it would be abused. Did I lose you?
No, you didn't.
Okay, it's almost break time, so I'll let you finish, and then I got a break.
Hold on, that might make things a bit better. No, if you actually look things up, the borders were actually a lot looser back then than they are now. No. Like it was specifically for work, but how the borders worked back then was it worked on a cycle. People came in, worked, and then went home. That's how it worked. No,
they didn't. People didn't travel internationally in the 1800s. People did not regularly travel internationally. And even before the Civil War, and certainly after, there were all kinds of immigration restrictions. It was done by nationalities. Only so many Irish can come. Only so many Germans. Only so many Chinese. But hey, listen, I got to run for our bottom of the hour break, but appreciate the call. All right? Take care. We'll talk again. All right, it's the Steve Kane Show. My name is Brian Craig. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take our bottom of the hour break and be right back. Yep, if you're on hold, stand by. Have you guys noticed, what is it about the left that they just constantly want to represent foreigners? They don't even, and they've done so much damage to young people for the millennial and Gen Z generation. They don't even know proper American history, civics, or how basic things work in our government. It's crazy. Okay, we'll be back shortly. If you're new, my name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you subscribe, and if you want to call in, the toll-free number is pinned in the live chat. We'll be back in 2 minutes. This is our bottom of the hour break at the radio station. And don't forget, those of you who are Patreon supporters, I put up a new video yesterday just for Patreon supporters. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Oh my goodness. You wouldn't believe what happened to me involving a TV interview. And you guys can see it there. And, you know, if you become a Patreon supporter, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description of the video. You get access to commercial-free editions of all of my podcast episodes, as well as access to exclusive content that I do not post anywhere else. Okay? Sometimes it's vlogs and videos, content that my wife and I both post up there. And if you're a top Patreon supporter, you get your name on the screen and a live on-air thank you on every one of my podcast episodes if you're a top Patreon supporter. And that, of course, is SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, David, Laura, Rob, Tina, Wes, and Sue, our newest top Patreon supporter. Again, there's a link in the description of the video to my Patreon page. So I appreciate your support, and thank you to all of you who do support me there. Let's see. We'll be back in less than a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. If you're on hold, stand by. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. You know, that last call, it's really sad. That guy I just talked to who was calling from Pennsylvania. Yeah, I know. Philadelphia is in Pennsylvania. And Gen Z and millennials have been taught an alternate view of America. Do you guys ever see that Amazon series, Man in the High Castle? I read the book years ago, and the series is much better than the book, I got to tell you. But it's an alt history of the United States if the Germans would have won World War II and the Japanese. And Gen Z and millennials, they kind of live in an alternate history reality. You know, there's a big genre of books. There's an author, I don't know if he's still alive. He wrote a couple of good books, Harry Turtledove. He wrote one book called Guns of the South, and some racist white South Africans had a time machine, and they traveled back in time and gave the Democrats, led by General Lee, AK-47s. Very good book, and it was a pretty good book. Then there was another series he did when I first heard of him I think it was called Earth in the Balance, and it was pretty cool. Aliens invaded the Earth in the middle of the Second World War. And it was a good book series. I read that whole series 25, 30 years ago. And there's a whole genre of alternate history in books and even in movies. You guys seen these? And when I talk to Gen Z or millennials who are liberal, it's like they're in a parallel universe. They grew up in another America in some other dimension that had a different history path, because the things that they believe about our country are so upside down and wrong. You know, when I started school in kindergarten, we didn't have any of that pre-K and stuff, but it was, I was 5, it was 1976, which was the bicentennial year. So, you know, even though the Vietnam War had just ended, you know, and, but it was the bicentennial. And then, so we had this great sense of American patriotism, which President Trump is working so hard to bring back for the 250th anniversary. And then after we had, you know, that great resurgence of American pride from the bicentennial, we had the Reagan era of 8 years. It's morning in again in America and all that. And, you know, and the people that at that period, okay, the people that were teaching me, whether it was my school teachers or people that were writing curriculum, the school board members, many of them either were part of the greatest generation or were baby boomers, and they understood America and American history and the way of it. And now with all this DEI and 1619 Project and all these things that have gone into American media and our curriculum, millennials and Gen Z that are liberals do not have a basic understanding of this country's history. They've learned everything about America from a negative, right? You know, I studied history and you know, and I've mentioned this many times. I have a degree in history and education because I was going to be a school teacher, I thought, but can't support a family and raise children on that, right? You know, not unless you're both teaching, and then it's still a struggle. But you know, I was always interested in government and history, and when I was in school, even in you know, and in elementary school, you know, we'd have our civics book, depending on what year, your civics book or your history, American history book. By the end of the first week every year, I would have read the whole book, the whole textbook. I hated school. I was not into studying, and I sucked in a lot of subjects. But when it came to history and social studies, I'd read that textbook by the end of the first week, I'd read the whole textbook from elementary school all the way through high school. You know, and that's why I ended up majoring in that in college, and it was exciting, you know, and you learned about history and the thing about, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day about this. They said, you know, why do you, because I still read a lot of history and everything, and they said, why do you read all? And I said, you know, the thing about history, you know, and my wife too, I had this conversation with the other day. My wife was looking for a good book about the Civil War. And I told her, I said, well, you know, the books I like to read about the Civil War are hard to find because most of the books are about the battles. And that's important, no doubt about it. But what I like to learn about the politics of it. And the thing about history that I've always enjoyed is it's almost like a puzzle. You know, you start from the beginning and you learn why when you study history properly, not with this 1619 Project propaganda, but you know what I mean. You learn why things are the way they are because something happens and it causes this, right? You know, and this happens and it causes that. Like Bloody Kansas led to the Civil War, and there were other things. And they just don't do that anymore. What they teach people, and they've done this for the millennials and they've done this for Gen Z, is they start from a negative. All the problems in the world are because of the United States. The United States did this. The United States did that. The United States in Vietnam, this and that, right? It's like this idiot that Tucker Carlson interviewed that said that that the Allies were responsible for the Holocaust. It's, you know, this Zohan idiot that's running for mayor in New York was talking earlier this week. His father gave a lecture and said that Adolf Hitler modeled his government after Abraham Lincoln. What kind of thinking is that? Don't you understand? So this younger generation, when I get a call from that guy from Pennsylvania who tries to tell me that the 14th Amendment was so that people could invade our country and set up a life here, that's his reality. He thinks it's real, but he's been taught an alternate version of American history. Okay? And another thing too, there was, we had massive immigration after the Civil War and into the early 20th century that was highly regulated, but we didn't have social welfare back then, right? So when our ancestors came to this country back in those periods, there was no Section 8 housing, no EBT, none of that stuff. No Medicaid for them to get on wrongly, illegally, There was none of that. Okay? So people, when they came here, even if they violated the rules, although there was strict regulation through Ellis Island, and that's why so many people that are Ellis Island descendants, like my wife, you can go through the Ellis Island records online, not only find your great-grandparents, you can even find the documents they signed when they came through immigration that'll even tell you the ship that they came here on. So immigration has always been highly regulated, except under Obama and Biden. Okay? Highly documented. My wife's Italian. I mean, how many of you are Italian or Irish who have looked up and seen a photograph of the ship that your great whatever, how many ever greats it is, grandparents came here on? And the reason you're able to do that and have those documents, even with their signatures on it sometimes, and with the handwriting of the immigration agent, is because immigration in the 1800s and in the early 20th century was highly, highly regulated by the federal government. And so far as the southern border, no, there was not much immigration from the southern border. It all came in through the ports for the most part, on the east and west coast. And even on the west coast, it was highly regulated too. That's why I got all these Ellis Island stories. So this idea that the borders have always been open to anybody that wants to come here is not true. And if you go back and look during these immigration periods, it's like I told the caller, immigration was heavily regulated it was done by nationality then. Only so many Irish, only so many British, only so many Germans, only so many Italians, only so many Chinese. It was done like that. There was hardcore regulation. There never was a time that there was open borders and you could come here. But even if you made your way in illegally, there was no social welfare then, so you had to find a way to get work and feed yourself. It wasn't like today where you come into the country illegally with your family and they put you up in some fancy hotel in New York City and take care of everything for you. This is crazy. And that's why I would so much like to see Charlie Kirk, because he's got the organization to do this, do a massive recruitment drive through Turning Point USA for school teachers. We need right-thinking MAGA young people to become school teachers and administrators and get all this alt history out of our textbooks and out of our classrooms that has just polluted our country. Oh boy! Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. This is going to hear me talking about this throughout the day. This is a very unusual thing. Mike Lindell. This was day before yesterday. Mike Lindell's assistant called me. Today, Thursday, is the last day that you can get the free With God All Things Are Possible multi-use MyPillow 2.0 with any purchase using our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. So go to mypillow.com/Kane. That's mypillow.com/Kane. And you can order your free With God All Things Are Possible multi-use MyPillow 2.0. It's free with any purchase. You could buy a MyPillow towel with our promo code Kane and get that pillow for free. Remember, the MyPillow 2.0 is the one that has the temperature regulating technology in it. So you'll be cool and comfortable all night long, even during these hot summer months. But today is the last day, and they don't usually tell me when a special is ending, but this is ending today, and I don't even know what time today. By the way, that free pillow has a value of $39.98. You got the MyPillow 2.0, but it also comes with a beautiful case with beautiful artwork with that great passage from Matthew. With God, all things are possible. You get it for free. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 716-4879, promo code KANE, K-A-N-E. Order now because, again, today's the last day, and I don't know when today that special is going to disappear from the site. We'll be right back.
So anyway, I just wanted to jump on because my heart is truly heavy for all of these families. The sad part is, I think that my heart is going to carry a level of weight that will continue to weigh me down as we have to continue to do our best to survive an administration that literally is against us. An administration.
Okay. That's Jasmine Crockett. Can you believe this? She's out of her mind. I'm going to play that when we get back. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take some calls. Have any of you read any of those Harry Turtledove books? I've only read those, the Guns of the South and the Earth in the Balance series. And I read that Earth in the Balance series so long ago. And the Earth in the Balance series, okay? It had a very weird thing. I don't know. So in the Harry Turtledove, in the Earth in the Balance series, aliens invade Earth during the Second World War. And all the allies in the Axis joined forces against the aliens. And the aliens liberate the Jews from the concentration camps, and the Jews fight with the aliens because they freed them from the Nazis at the camps. I haven't read that book in a long time. When it first came out, which was like in the early 90s, I don't know. It sounds a little strange when you think about it, but it's a pretty good series. All right, we'll be back shortly. About a minute. We'll be back in about a minute. All right. Oh, yeah. I wanted to look something up. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll-free 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I just wanted to say your mother sucked horse cack.
Okay, there you go. All right. Almost had to get to the dump button, but we didn't. Okay, the rest of you on hold, hang in there. I just came across this during the break. Jasmine Crockett. Does a day go by that she doesn't say something stupid? This is Jasmine Crockett. She's talking about the Texas floods. Listen.
So anyway, I just wanted to jump on because my heart is truly heavy for all of these families. The sad part is I think that my heart is going to carry a level of weight that will continue to weigh me down as we have to continue to do our best to survive an administration that literally is against us. An administration that is doing everything, in my mind, to hurt us and not help us. And it feels like we're fending for ourselves.
Okay. Jasmine Crockett. You know why she gets so much attention? Because she's pretty, although she's gained a lot of weight. Oh, my goodness, has she gained a lot of weight. Here we have these stories in Texas. I was talking the other day to you guys. You haven't heard me talk too much about the disaster in Texas. And the reason I haven't is it's so heartbreaking. You read these stories. Did you see the two little girl sisters? One was 11, the other one was younger. I can't remember her age. They found them. They're gone, but they were holding hands. Imagine what it's like to die like that. 11 years old and you're the oldest. There was the dad whose arm was severed, saving his family, and he bled out. There's, of course, the girls from the school or the summer camp that are all gone, and there was one dad who he knew all the girls from the camp, and he was there, lost his child, and he was helping the authorities identify for the parents everything just by the clothes. He recognized the clothes. He knew when they found clothes what child it belonged to. I mean, it's just so sad, and not just as a parent, but as a human being. And I just can't get myself to follow the story very much because it's too upsetting. And you see these Democrats like Jasmine Crockett. How many times did she say me and I? She wants you to worry about her. It's what Rahm Emanuel said. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? And since Trump came down the escalator more than 10 years ago, no matter what's in the news, the Democrats' immediate reaction is, okay, how can we use this against Trump? Okay, let's go. And, there used to be a time in this country when there was a national tragedy that partisanship was gone and we would come together, whether it was 9/11, I mentioned the shuttle Challenger, earlier. Remember the girl in the well? There were certain things, right? Oklahoma City in 95. You can think of a lot of others if you go through it. But that's not how Democrats roll anymore. And it's really sick. It's twisted. It's disgusting. They are heartless, vile lunatics who have no empathy. And they're also incredibly narcissistic because everything that happens, no matter who and what is lost or who is suffering, all they care about is how it's going to benefit them, right? Even like with the auto pen administration of Biden. Remember that Brittany Griner, like 12 feet tall, taking CBD to Russia and got sent in the prison? Well, there were other Americans that were being held by Putin, but they weren't black and gay and celebrities. So Biden didn't get them out. And the only reason they got Brittany Griner out is, this can help us with the black demographic that President Trump is polling so well in. They didn't even care about her. They just thought about, okay, this can help us in this particular demo. We'll gain a couple points here. That's all they care about. These are sick people. And for anyone to lay blame on Trump or Kristi Noem for what happened in Texas, I mean, you basically have people living in dry riverbeds, basically, and you get some heavy rains. And there were warnings throughout. Now, of course, like with our hurricanes here in Florida, they seem to come in the middle of the night. And the harshest of the warnings came in the middle of the night when a lot of people were sleeping. But there's been a lot of talk that people have flood alert fatigue in Texas, right? And they get so many flood alerts that a lot of people ignore them. And I always tell people that are new to Florida, when the hurricane warnings come down and they tell you you're in an evacuation zone, get out. The people that don't evacuate evacuation zones are the ones that don't make it through hurricanes. You know, on one of our cruises, I think it was our second cruise, we went to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it was not long after the hurricane. In fact, all our destinations got hit by that hurricane. It was in Trump's first term. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and I forget the other place we went. And they got hit pretty hard in the Virgin Islands, and we had a tour guide on a tour around the island, and I was talking to her about, she said the only people who were lost in the Virgin Islands were people in evacuation zones that didn't get out. And so something's got to be done in Texas for people to take these warnings that they get and these alerts a little more serious than they had been. Not that it's their responsibility that they're gone or lost or anything else, but that is a factor that resulted in a lot of death out there in Texas. And you get that. People get, when you get warnings about lightning, do you stay in the house? A lot of people get struck by lightning. I've been hearing my whole life that Florida, we have more people struck by lightning than any other state because people ignore those. It's hurricane season right now, rainy season. You don't want to ignore any of this stuff. And that's probably one of the biggest factors in Texas is the alert fatigue. But you look at these Democrats, and they are truly sick and twisted people, twisted beyond measure, quite honestly. And when it comes to, I didn't mean for it to turn into this, but I want to tell you guys about Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing because it is hurricane season. If you've got a leak in your roof, that's bad news. And you can know you have a leak by a wet spot on your ceiling. If you have a wet spot on your ceiling, you have a leak in your roof, and for that drip to get, you get a little wet spot about the size of a quarter on your ceiling. The leak is bigger than that because it's got to go through the roofing material, whatever you have, shingle, tile, whatever, metal, whatever kind of roofing material, it's got to go through that. It's got to go through that layer they put underneath that. It's got to go through the wood that's underneath that. Then it goes into your attic, and you've got insulation in your attic. It's got to go so that little wet spot, the size of a quarter, you might, the size of a quarter. I promise you the leak is much bigger than that. Call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. He'll come out. He'll do an inspection. And if you just need a simple repair, he'll do that. He's a good MAGA guy. He has helped so many of our listeners over the years. He works with every type of structure too, residential, commercial, municipal, even church roofs. He can handle the job of any size, whether it's one home, whether it's one office building, or a community, an HOA that has over 300 units. He can handle that as well. Now, he gives out his cell phone number, so you can call or text Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing at 954-604-4602. And this is his cell phone number. I just pulled out my iPhone, and Tom and I, we text a lot. So I just pulled up the last text between Tom Laporta and myself, and that's where I'm reading his phone number just off of my text message, 954-604-4602. And online, LaportaRoofing.com. Now, the number at LaportaRoofing.com will take you to the office. That's not Tom's cell number, but you can call the office too, and they'll help you. But if you want to get the owner directly on the phone, 954-604-4602. All right. I have time for a call or two, so let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air once, twice. All right, you missed out. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Hey, Doug.
You know, you just mentioned this. You're doing a great job as usual. The Jasmine Crockett person. You know, I'm so sick of these people, her in particular, and the rest of the Democrats. They say things, and they never say anything to explain what they're talking about. They just say generalization. Oh, he's against us. It's a Nazi concentration camp. He's picking people up off the streets, kidnapping people. Yet they never say, oh, this person was kidnapped and wasn't supposed to be picked. They don't have a list of anything to verify what they say. You know, I don't know how these people get elected, but I think when President Trump said they cheat, I think that's the only way they
they've
get
got.
there.
When you're a member of Congress, you know. Listen, the way that they carve out these districts, in particular for Democrats, and many Democrats who are black, they have carved out districts that go through every black community in that area. And sometimes the districts are carved up in real weird ways, and they say things to their audience that they want to hear. That's why Jasmine Crockett pretends to talk ghetto when she really has a proper way of speaking, because she's a well-educated, comes from a wealthy family. All right, Doug, we're out of time for the hour, but I appreciate the call. If you're on hold, hang in there. 1 hour down, 2 to go. It's the Steve Kane Show. Our number toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. My name is Brian Craig. We'll be back right after this.
Period. You
All right. Now, guys, I want to tell you, there is a link to this book in the description of the video. All right, The Flower Story. This book was written by one of our regular chatters, and he's asked me to help him and his family out by promoting the book. I know some of you have purchased the book. If you could, it would be a great help. There's a link in the description of the video. It's The Flower Story. It's a children's book with illustrations, and he wrote the book himself. And the link is in the description of the video. And if you could pick up a copy and support him by doing that, I would greatly appreciate it. And he would too. And thank you in advance. All right? All right. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. I can't believe it's Thursday already. I really can't. It's crazy. This week has flown by, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. All right. We'll be back in less than a minute. Yeah, there's a link to the book in the description, The Flower Story. If you could pick up a copy, the hardcover or paperback, it would help them out a lot. And people sometimes ask me to help them out. I do the best I can, and I like the idea of this better than a GoFundMe kind of thing, because you actually get the book, and it's a good book, and it's illustrated too. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show. You know, James Bond, when that used to be a thing. Do any of you have any interest in James Bond anymore? Who's the new Bond going to be? I don't care. I don't care about any new Bonds with their DEI and all whatever they're going to come up with to try to make it interesting again. But James Bond had something that made him unique, and that was a license to kill. A license to kill. You know, and Democrats kind of have a thing like that. They have complete immunity. Democrats practically have diplomatic immunity, full diplomatic immunity. Do you know what you have to do to be a Democrat, to be held accountable for anything you do or say? I mean, look at Ted Kennedy. He killed a woman. And he went on to get elected over and over again to the United States Senate. And if he were still alive, he'd still be in there. Now, it stopped him when he challenged Jimmy Carter to become president, but he killed a woman. And they honored him and elected him and reelected. I mean, they had another Democrat, Robert Byrd, who was not just in the Ku Klux Klan. He was a Grand Kleagle, which is a senior officer in the Ku Klux Klan, Robert Byrd. And they made him he was the senior Democrat in the Senate. And when he died, they all the Democrats, and honored him at his funeral. I mean, so, you know, and you see other examples today. Now, this guy, Zohan, running for mayor of New York, I mean, he's filling out college applications falsely, saying he's black. And the New York Times uncovered this. This is how much trouble this guy's in. The New York Times is actually doing investigative journalism and printing it on a Democrat. This is how bad he is. Even the New York Times is after him. But it's believed that he was checking black on his college applications because he had a below-average SAT score. Now, listen to this. New York Post reporting, Socialist New York City mayoral nominee Zohan visited a controversial Brooklyn mosque to pray while on the campaign trail. Well, you know what a controversial mosque is? A mosque that believes death to America, death to Jews. That's what they mean by that. Just months after the imam had called for the destruction of Israel. See, I told you, I had not even read the rest of the sentence. Zohan posted a picture of himself speaking at the Islamic Society of Bay Ridge alongside firebrand cleric Sheikh Muhammad Albar on his social media in January. He says, it was a privilege. He posted it all there to speak and be on stage with this anti-Semitic lunatic. Zohan's visit came just 5 months after the imam called on Allah in a firing sermon at his Bay Ridge Mosque to liberate Palestine from the occupation of the plunderers. He said, "O Allah, annihilate those who occupy their lands and those who betrayed and deserted them, and those who spilled their blood," the cleric said in Arabic in an August service at the Islamic Society of Bay Ridge, where Zohan was honored to be. So here you got a Democrat. He's hanging out and bragging that he's friends with this guy and joining him on stage who's saying death to Israel, death to Jews. And, of course, because he's a Democrat, whatever, It's amazing to me. You get a Republican who jaywalks, all of a sudden they've got a national legal scandal against them because they jaywalked. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right. I guess they chickened out. That's okay. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Darren, and I'm calling from Georgia.
Okay, hold on, Darren in Georgia. All right, hold on here. Okay. All right, Darren in Georgia, what's on your mind?
So, Brian, listen, I got a few questions for you, and this pertains to Trump, right? Mm-hmm. So, the first question is about Biden, right? So, let me ask you this. Do you think, and I'm asking you this, so Biden, I noticed, you know, he's never been endorsed by white supremacists, for one, right? And what's that about?
I don't agree with that.
Okay. Oh, so he's been publicly endorsed by white supremacists.
Every Democrat has.
No.
Now, I want to tell you. You want me to explain to you? Are you curious to know why I say that? Or are you nervous?
Well,
or are you nervous?
No. Tell me.
Every Democrat.
Stay on track.
What's that?
Stay on track.
What does that mean?
Don't try to delineate.
Well, first of all, I'm hosting the show, and I'll decide what direction the discussion goes. No. But see, you're afraid. You're afraid. You're afraid. Why are you afraid? All right. First dump of the day. Oh my goodness. First dump of the day. He called white people mother effers. He said, "You mother effers." He called us Europeans. European mother effers, he said. Boy, oh boy. You know, he got nervous. And he didn't even know what I was going to say, but he listens enough to know that I don't just say stuff. So he said to me, he says, you know, Brian, he says, before he got into the MFers and stuff, he was in a panic. He was in a hysterical panic because he knew that I've got an answer and he didn't want it out there. But when I hang up on you, you're not on the air. I still am. So this is what he said. He said, you know, Biden was never endorsed by white supremacists. And I said, I don't agree with that. I said, and in fact, all Democrats are endorsed by white supremacists. Now, what do you think I mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean. Planned Parenthood is a white supremacist organization. You know, abortion clinics are not so common anymore. They're about as common as trying to find a video store because things have been done, they're done with the pills and stuff now. But Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics in general, including the ones that are still in existence, have primarily been located in or near African American neighborhoods nationwide, including in the major urban sections. Remember that weirdo doctor that was busted, the abortion doctor in Philadelphia years ago, about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Okay? And they, Planned Parenthood, it wasn't just because Margaret Sanger was a white supremacist. They lived on. Most abortions were being done at abortion clinics in African American neighborhoods. And I pointed this out many times. Throughout my life, I was born in 1971. During my entire lifetime, the black population has been about 12%. Now, in certain communities, it may be higher, it may be lower, but the national average, the black community has stood at 12%. Okay, why is that? It's because Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics, Roe v. Wade, 1973. If it were not for abortion, the black population might be 20 to 25% of the population today, maybe even higher because of so many abortions that were committed. Notice I say committed, not performed, like it's an artistic dance, like the ballet or something, like liberals want you to think. The black population would be 20% or higher today in this country if it were not for abortion. And every Democrat has the backing of Planned Parenthood, who's responsible for that. In fact, the big, beautiful bill cut off funding to Planned Parenthood, and they're trying to get the funding back. Now, I want to tell you guys, a week from Saturday, July 19th, come meet me at Attorney Barry Siegel's Medicaid planning seminar. It's a Saturday at his office in Boca. This is the main office of the Siegel Law Group. And this is a rare opportunity, me having a personal appearance on a Saturday. And if the weather's good, I'm gonna ride my MAGA scooter because, hey, Saturday in Florida, I'm gonna ride my MAGA scooter to Attorney Barry Siegel's Medicaid seminar, and I invite all of you to come. It's a completely free event, but they do ask that you call the Siegel Law Group and let them know you're coming. Okay, limited seating because it's at his law office, and they need to know how much space and how many seats they need. So give them a call. Again, it's Saturday, July 19th, a week from this Saturday. Give them a call, 855-FLA-3782, 855-FLA-3782, or go to the website, SiegelLawGroup.com. Call us on hold. Stand by. We'll be right back. I'm looking for something I'm missing. Everywhere but it was right on top. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll go back to the phones. Back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Welcome, everyone. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm going to go back to the phones after the break. Yeah, my Vespa. It's my MAGA scooter. It's the MAGA scooter 2.0. The original MAGA scooter I still have, and I can't get it to start. I was thinking about getting some engine start for it. I was donating it to Cars for Kids, but they never showed up to get it. So I think I'm going to keep it and get it running. It just won't turn over. It wants to start, and it just won't turn over. I haven't used engine start on a car since I was in high school. The car I had in high school, I have to use engine start every once in a while. You spray, if I remember correctly, on a scooter, you spray the engine start in the exhaust, and the fumes from the engine start go up through the carb. My Vespa is fuel injected, but my old scooter has a carburetor in it. Yep, there's callers on hold. Yeah, if you want to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat. Well, you can amend the Constitution and he can run again. Eric, that's right. This hat came from the official Trump store. I bought this from Trump. All right, 30 seconds. Good calls today. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. Call us on hold. Stand by. You know, that last caller we had, the dump, he called me a European mother effer. That's up there. That's one of the better ones I've been called. My favorite. I wish I had this on tape. You know, a lot of people that are visually impaired, the blind, listen to the radio. And a lot of people that are blind have been listeners of the program over the years. And many years ago, when I was first starting out, an organization that I think it was called Lighthouse for the Blind, they're probably still around. This was like in the 90s. They invited me to do an appearance at the Lighthouse for the Blind because we had so many blind listeners listening to the radio show. And I went, and they blindfolded me and took me through the training of how they train people that lose their vision. And just because someone's blind doesn't mean that they're not blind when it comes to politics either. And I got this liberal blind person who called me on the air. I wish I had this on tape. This was the best insult I ever got from a caller. We were going back and forth like you hear me do with these other callers. And they were yelling at me, and I was, doing what I do back. And then all of a sudden, they said, "You sided bastard," and they hung up. They called me a sided bastard. And I thought that was like the favorite insult that I've ever gotten in my life. It was hilarious. I was cracking up. I almost broke a rib on that show. As funny as it is now, when it happened, it was a lot funnier. All right, I've covered a lot since 6 a.m. You're welcome to call in about anything I brought up so far. Let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, when they going to deport that Euro trash Melania Trump?
Melania is we don't deport U.S. citizens.
She wasn't a U.S. citizen.
Okay, well, she's a U.S. citizen now. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Dustin from Louisiana.
Hey, Dustin, what's on your mind?
Oh, not much. I'm the guy. I called a few weeks ago. You said I was co-hosting your show. I didn't mean to do that, man. I apologize.
I didn't say you were co-hosting. I said I don't invite people to call in to become co-host. I'm you know what I mean when you go on too long. But anyway, what's on your mind today?
I wanted to talk about the birthright citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
I was always taught that if you was born in America, that you're native to America and you become an American.
Well, that's not.
I was taught that.
That's not true. It's not true. It's not true.
Okay. My bad.
It's not true. I know that's what. Hey, listen. We've been told all kinds of things, right? We've been told that oil is a finite resource that comes from fossilized dinosaurs, and it's going to run out. They told us that in 4th grade too, right? That's also BS. I remember in 7th and 8th grade, they constantly told us that by the year 2000, so much of the rainforest was going to be gone in South America, there wouldn't be enough air to breathe on the earth. I remember there was even an episode of Different Strokes about this. Dana Plato's hair turned green from this. Acid rain was going to come down. And let's not forget the oldie but the goodie, the hole in the ozone layer. We were all going to be radiated by the year 2000 from the hole in the ozone layer. So to sum it up, they tell us a lot of stuff in school that's BS, like birthright citizenship.
I'm a little split on the issue right now. I think it might have to go to the Supreme Court.
Why is it? Let me ask you. Why are you Democrats so concerned about these foreigners all the time and not Americans?
I care about Americans very much.
But all I hear you guys talk about are the rights of South Americans, not United States of Americans.
Good. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, I'm a little split on that one issue. I agree with Trump 90%. Some things I don't agree with. Or maybe I do. I don't know yet. I have to learn more about it.
So you mean to tell me? Now, let's just give you an example. There's a woman. She's pregnant, right? She's in Venezuela, and even though she's 8 months pregnant, she makes her way across the. Now, again, Trump shut down the border. No one's getting across, but. This woman was impregnated in Venezuela. She makes her way into the United States. The next day, she gives birth to her baby that she carried in her belly from Venezuela. You mean to tell me you think that child's a U.S. citizen that's going to anchor that woman to this country?
I think it's not the child's fault. It's the mother's fault for doing that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
The mother was impregnated in Venezuela, and she traveled here to commit fraud. And by the way,
Right.
it's not these anchor babies we're deporting. Their parents are getting deported.
Okay. And they got a choice if they want to bring them back with them
Or leave them here. Yes.
Get like a foster system.
Well, no, a lot of times they have family that's in the country legally.
Okay.
You know, there's a video on X that I've seen for a day. There's a guy that put hold on a second. There's a guy that put a video up on X, right? The old Twitter. And I can't remember if it was Friday or Monday. He's driving on the freeway in Los Angeles during the morning rush hour, 8 a.m., and there's hardly a car on the road. And I can't play it on the radio because he drops the F word in it. But the road is complete. The freeway, there's no traffic because there's been so many deportations, and a lot of the illegals are afraid to go out on the road. I mean, don't you understand that our country, in certain areas like California, is overwhelmed by all these illegals that have come here and set up an illegal life that are being totally taken care of by the government?
I've been seeing it all over. I see it in my own county.
So how's that right? Why are you supporting that? Don't you understand they're coming here to retire off of the U.S. taxpayer committing fraud?
I got from what I was taught in school and stuff.
Well, weren't you taught about how old are you?
I'm 45.
Okay. Did you learn about the rainforest?
Yeah, I know about
Okay, that was all BS. They told you that in school. Did they tell you that oil comes from fossilized dinosaurs and we're going to run out? That's a lie, too. Oil's not from dinosaurs. What?
Yep. Whales and dinosaurs.
The earth naturally makes oil. It's been found by scientists. The earth makes oil. We will never run out of it. That doesn't mean a well won't dry up, but the earth is constantly making oil. It's part of the process.
I've always looked at oil as like the bloodline of the earth.
See, all these things I've listed, Democrats make all kinds of garbage up to further their agenda. And even you and I were brainwashed in school. I just grew out of it. Hey, listen, appreciate the call, all right? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, it's Renee from Paul.
Hey, Renee.
Yeah, I figured I'd give right-wing redneck radio a call because you are espousing your usual packet of lies.
Yeah.
I suppose you think the Ku Klux Klan endorsed Obama for president, huh?
The Ku Klux Klan, since you asked, the Ku Klux Klan they're a tiny little organization that endorsed no one.
Oh, no, they endorsed your boy.
Really? Who's the name of the leader? What is the name of the Klan leader that endorsed the president and was in, what was his name?
David Duke.
No, David Duke. David Duke is a publicity stunt guy.
Yeah, right.
Who is propped up by the media. In fact, Renee, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to answer this question about David Duke. David Duke got famous because around, I can't remember what year it was, but it was around 1990, because around 1990-ish, he ran for state house in Louisiana and he registered as a Republican. That's how David Duke became famous. That doesn't mean he's look at all these fake Republicans we got now, right? These never Trumpers. David Duke had disappeared. We had not heard from David Duke like in 10 to 20 years. Donald Trump announces he's running for president and his campaign starts to take off. And it was either a Saturday or a Sunday morning, because I had the TV on and CNN's on. They have David Duke in the studio praising Trump, okay? And he's wearing a jacket, a blazer that didn't even fit him, that he obviously borrowed it from somebody. It was too big for him, you know? These people that they bring out, like David Duke in the old days when he was alive, Reverend Fred Phelps, These are not Republicans. These are media creations that they prop up so they can say, see, look, the Klan, Fred Phelps, David Duke. It's all nonsense. Those are media creations, propaganda, and lies. And what I always tell people about this myth that the left have pushed about the white supremacist and these organizations. I'm not saying there's no Klansman or white supremacist around, but they're not Republican and they're not Democrat. There's very few of them. And if they were an organized political movement, these white supremacist organizations and the Ku Klux Klan would be at every event Obama went to when he was president for 8 years. The Klan, the white supremacists, they'd be livid over a black president. Same goes with a black woman was just running for president. Where were the white supremacists and the Klan showing up at events protesting that? These organizations are very tiny. They really don't exist. They're not political players. And when you see them on TV, they're either media creations or deep state creations, right? And they want you to, oh, look, the white supremacists. The white supremacists hate nothing more than blacks telling them what to do and running them, whether it's a woman running for president who's vice president or a black president for 8 years. And it was radio silence from all of them because those organizations really don't exist. Certainly not like they're portrayed by idiots like Renee from Harlem. All right, we'll take our break for the bottom of the hour, but first I want to tell you about Sloman's and the free doorbell camera offer. I'm going to give you the number in just a moment, so get something to write with. Sloman's is going to give you a free doorbell camera that connects directly to your cell phone with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Not only that, Sloman's is going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts for your doors and windows, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus you'll receive a free doorbell camera that connects to your cell phone with the installation of your Sloman Shield. Here's the number, 833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. That's 833-283-5050. We'll be right back. Boy, oh boy, I tell you guys. I want to tell you about Chapter. Are you 65 years of age or older? Are you turning 65 soon? Are you a Medicare recipient? Give Chapter a call. No matter which one of the 50 U.S. states you're in, Chapter can help. The number's in the description of the video. You know, there's over 24,000 Medicare policies. Over 24,000. Chapter has access to all of them. When you call, you're going to get a real person on the phone who can answer your questions, and it's completely free, okay? They'll let you know if your doctors are covered, your specialist, your prescriptions, your local pharmacy, everything you need to know. They're there to help you, and it's completely free. Again, no matter which one of the 50 states you're in, give them a call, 805-754-3033, 805-754-3033. Okay, we'll be back in, let me see here. Two minutes. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. Yeah, give them a call. You get a live person, and they will answer your questions straight away. 805-754-3033. 1 minute. We'll be back. 1 minute. Mm-hmm. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. I got a lot more to cover. We've just scratched the surface, but we've passed the halfway point. But let me take some more calls, and then I got some new things I need to get into. There's so much news today. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning, Brian.
Hey,
I'm
Richie.
glad I'm glad I'm writing back of Renee, because not only does he always criticizes you, he constantly calls you everything in the book. But I'm also the old racist. He always says, Richie, the old racist. Well, you know, Renee, you got to be embarrassed. I know you're still listening. It's an embarrassment, okay? Total embarrassment. I mean, you take a look at the word racist is thrown around by Renee. It's thrown around by a lot of people. President Trump is trying to do the best job he can, and he's dealing with a million Renees out there, a million Renees. You know, the other day, and Brian will tell you this because this was a local story. Boynton Beach, in the ghetto, the black community of Boynton Beach, in the park. They had a keep our streets safe, and it was put on by clergy. Okay, there was a shootout in the park during that in broad daylight. Two gangs came in.
Oh, Richie, listen. Tomorrow is Friday. That's open MAGA Mike Friday.
Well,
I got a lot to cover here, and you're not really on topic. So you know.
I'll get on topic right now if you give me a chance to. Okay. You also brought up earlier about Butler with the shooting, and you opened up with the shooting of President Trump. Brian, you're a history guy, but you cannot compare that with John Kennedy. I am sorry. You had a country united when John Kennedy was killed. This country was totally united before he was killed. There might have been some internal stuff, and maybe some of the Cuban people weren't happy with Kennedy, but he was loved by everybody, Democrats and Republicans.
No, you weren't. I mean, I know you were alive then, okay, and I wasn't.
14 years old.
But you know, I've talked to people in my family who were older that were adults then. And I remember when there were a lot of Republicans. In fact, Steve Kane, you know, he was a producer on the Joe Pine TV show back then, and it was also a nationally syndicated radio show. And a lot of you from New York remember the late great Bob Grant, who's a legend of New York radio. Yes. And when Steve, you know, as great as Rush was, he was not the first nationally syndicated Republican. It was Joe Pine. He did a radio show on hundreds of radio stations, syndicated every day. And Steve was the producer. And he was, not only was Joe Pine a hardcore Republican, like Republicans at the time, he was anti-Kennedy. And when Kennedy was assassinated, they took him off the air for a month because the syndicators were afraid they would blame him. He was a Rush Limbaugh type, but in 1963 would blame him for the assassination, and they let the sports guy Bob Grant fill in for that month, and that's how Bob Grant became famous. But anyway, there's a lot of revision thinking with that. No, there were conservatives that hated Kennedy. I know. I have people in my family. People in my family said when Obama. This was during the Obama years. They said when they hear Obama, it reminded them of Kennedy. A bunch of platitudes, you know. So he wasn't loved by everybody.
But they didn't want him dead, and the country mourned like crazy. You think they'd mourn over if President Trump was taken out? No way.
All right. Well, that's an inappropriate conversation. Appreciate the call. I mean, you know, see what happens. Stay on topic. Oh, by the way, he did help me remember something. There was a woman arrested. This was insane. A woman arrested at Mar-a-Lago yesterday. Did you see this story in the news? A woman showed up at the gate of Mar-a-Lago. Now, the president's not there. She had an important message for the president. Secret Service found her car had weapons in it. Do you know what they arrested her for? Do you know what they arrested her for? What do you think? This was yesterday. She drove up to Mar-a-Lago. She had an important message for the president. She had weapons in her car. They arrested her. You know what they arrested her for? Driving on a suspended license. Are you freaking kidding me? You mean they... I hope they increase the charges down the road. A suspended license. People don't even generally get arrested for that. But they arrested her for it. Now, a couple things, I know, isn't that something? And there's another thing, too. This is a really cool thing. This has not been updated on iMaps yet, because I checked this morning. It has already been updated on Google Maps. Southern Boulevard in Palm Beach, that's the road from Palm Beach International Airport to Mar-a-Lago. It's a main road. And it's where Air Force One parks, or Trump Force One, when Trump's using that plane. They've renamed the portion of Southern Boulevard from Palm Beach International Airport to Mar-a-Lago Donald J. Trump Boulevard. And they're designing the signs now. When the signs are up, I'll go there and make a YouTube video for you guys around the country so you can see it. And it's the road that the president drives on every time he goes to and from the airport from Mar-a-Lago. And it's pretty cool. If you have Google Maps, go to Palm Beach and look up Donald J. Trump Boulevard, and it already comes up. I took a screenshot. It was pretty cool. But iMaps, they're behind. But go check it out. So we got a road named after him. Okay, now Miranda Devine has an incredible podcast. I love Miranda Devine. She wrote Laptop from Hell, which you even though Biden's out of office, if you've not read Laptop from Hell, go get it. Get the audiobook, because the guy that reads it's really good and it's dramatic. It'll freak you out. As corrupt as you think Biden is, you only know the tip of the iceberg. He's much worse than you know. And her book is very good and very detailed. And she has a podcast, Miranda Devine, called Pod Force One. And it's put out by the New York Post, Pod Force One. That's a pretty good name. And the president's given her incredible access. On her first episode, she interviewed the president. She interviewed Susie Wiles, and I got 2 clips of it. One's about Elon and one's about Ron DeSantis. The first clip here, this is Susie Wiles, our White House Chief of Staff, Miranda Devine yesterday, talking about the president and Elon.
Period. You had worked for Ron DeSantis, and then there was quite a nasty falling out, which I only realized recently they were very nasty to you and tried to really destroy your career. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. But it's in my rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And I think he's governing Florida, which is my home state. He's a good governor. And whatever personal differences he had or whatever deficiencies he thought I had are long past my thinking about them.
And what went wrong with his campaign? I mean, he seemed to start off with so much promise, and then Donald Trump pretty much demolished him.
Correct.
Pretty comprehensively.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So what was wrong?
Yeah, I played them out of order. This one's about DeSantis. The next one's on Elon. I apologize, guys.
Apart from having lost you.
No, it had nothing to do with me. It was the president's time, and he did the things that a candidate has to do to get through those early primary states, the first 4 in particular.
Okay. So, the reason I played this clip, I thought this was interesting. Susie Wiles, who they say she's tough as it gets, but she always seems like, someone's nice grandmother. But Ron DeSantis and his people tried to destroy her career, she says. Ron DeSantis is a nasty, nasty man who can never be trusted again. And I know he's doing a lot of great things. There is serious talk now in Florida. I've heard there was a Republican congressman from Florida. They are seriously moving to eliminate property taxes in Florida. And I'm a big supporter of that because I pay property taxes, and it's not cheap. And every once in a while, I'll get a notice in the mail. They're always going up, and you get this notice in the mail that tells you where your property taxes went that's very detailed and basically on a bunch of garbage. I mean, how many dog parks do we need? And this is a serious thing. And I told you, DeSantis is working a scheme on this, and he's putting us in such a catch-22. This is what I think they're doing. DeSantis said 2-3 weeks ago, it's up to the voters to eliminate the property tax. So it's going to be a ballot initiative. And we're all going to turn out and vote for that. Who's going to vote against elimination of property taxes? A lot of dumb idiots, a lot of renters maybe. They don't realize that their rent is as high as it is in large part because of property taxes. But, some Democrats, some stupid Democrats will vote against it. But DeSantis is running a scheme, I believe, to run for the Senate. He's completely unelectable. Everybody hates him. But run for the Senate with the property taxes on the ballot, maybe even during the primary race. If DeSantis can, he's going to get property taxes on the primary ballot, run for the U.S. Senate seat with that on the ballot, which is very popular. It's his thing. He's the champion of it. And he thinks that will get him to win the nomination, win the primary for U.S. Senator from Florida. Because remember, he appointed Marco Rubio's replacement. She's only finishing that term, which is up in the midterms. Okay? And she's not, I can never even remember her name. I can remember what she looks like. I can't even remember her name, and she's my senator. Okay? And he's going to use that. This is now again, this may not happen. It may not work out, but his plan and the Bush Republican establishment plan is to get DeSantis on the primary ballot for the Senate with this property tax initiative. They think that'll give him the primary victory. And then if he wins the primary, what are we going to do? In the general election, it's between DeSantis and some Democrat for the Senate seat. We're going to have to vote for DeSantis. They're putting us, it's a sneaky move he's pulling on Republicans. But that's what their plan is. And you can hear Susie Wiles, he tried to destroy her career. Now, this is the one I wanted to play first. This is Miranda Devine talking to Susie Wiles about Trump and Elon's relationship.
This has been a pretty smooth presidency. But one little hiccup was Elon.
Yeah. Little hiccup.
Yeah. I mean, I saw Elon Musk here, very comfortable coming in and out of the Oval Office, had sleepovers in the Lincoln bedroom. Mm-hmm. It seemed almost as if he had a sort of fatherly fixation with Donald Trump that I guess inevitably was going to blow up at some point. How did you see that relationship?
Similar. The president was very, very kind to him. And Elon had so much to offer us. He knew things we didn't know. He knew people and technologies that we didn't know. It was a great thing when it was a great thing. And had a very troublesome ending.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know. I know that what has been said doesn't ring accurate to me, but I don't know. I enjoyed working with Elon. I think he's a fascinating person and sees the world differently. And I think that's probably what the president saw too, just a little bit different than the average Joe. But it certainly came to not a good ending.
Okay, there you go. It's a pretty good interview. Yeah, it's pretty sad. She is very grandmotherly, isn't she? Now, I want to tell you guys about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I'm wearing these jeans right now that I went to I told you about this earlier in the week. I went to a 4th of July party that had a bunch of people from our MAGA cruise at. It was at one of our cruisers' houses, Murphy, who goes on our cruises. And I pulled up, I get out of the car, and the first thing I hear is, well, Brian, you're wearing the skinny jeans. Yeah, I am. These jeans I'm wearing are skinny jeans. I couldn't wear these jeans a couple months ago. I've lost so much weight from Coastal Weight Loss Secret that I can fit in perfectly fitted, tight jeans now, which is nice. And they're comfortable, right? They're comfortable. They're not tight. I don't have to struggle to get into them. I'm not holding my breath when I get dressed. They fit perfectly and they look great. I feel great. I've lost over 35 pounds. You can do the same. People lose 20, 30 pounds in the first month with Coastal Weight Loss Secret, and that is amazing. And, I lost about a pound a day. My goal was 25. I lost 25 pounds in 3 weeks. My goal was 25 pounds in a month, and that is pretty good. Eating foods I would normally eat, no prescription medications, and no exercise. I want to highlight that. No exercise. I don't have time for exercise. If I had to eat food I didn't like and I had to exercise, and I don't take prescription medications unless I'm on death's door, I would have failed. And because I didn't have to exercise and I could eat foods I would normally eat, now that I've lost all the weight I want to lose and I'm just maintaining my current weight that I slimmed down to, it's easy and totally without effort because I was eating foods I would normally eat and didn't have to exercise. If I was eating the little tiny pieces of food and was starving myself and those little foods I was eating tasted terrible and I had to go to the gym 2 times a day and work up a sweat and walk around the block half the day, as soon as it was over, I would fail. But no, because I didn't have to do any of those things, not only did I lose the weight, I kept it off as I have done with no problem. Now, if I would have exercised, I would have lost weight faster, but I lost about a pound a day. That's fast enough for me. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. Make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel, all right? 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. We'll be right back. If you're a Medicare recipient or about to turn 65, listen up. I want to talk to you about Medicare. Medicare, it's confusing. That's done on purpose, right? You go online, what do you find? More confusion. You know, a lot of people, they try to go it alone or they deal with someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about, and what happens? It ends up costing them thousands of dollars sometimes each year. And also, they find out maybe their doctors or the medications, they might not be covered either. That's where Chapter comes in. You know, Chapter is the only national Medicare advisor that compares all of the over 24,000 plans out there for you. They'll find the one that's right for you and your budget. And no matter where you are in the United States, Chapter can help. You're going to get answers, you're going to get them fast, and you're going to get them for free. So whether you're on Medicare right now or turning 65 soon, give Chapter a call, 805-754-3033. 805-754-3033. The number's also in the description of the episode. You're going to talk to a real person. They're going to walk you through everything step by step. No gimmicks, just real help. Because the right plan, it can save you thousands. Again, the number 805-754-3033. 805-754-3033. Get your Medicare questions answered free. 805-754-3033. Your health and your wallet will thank you. All right, we'll be back shortly, guys. Less than a minute, we'll be back. This is a radio station break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977. Callers on hold, stand by. We have gotten, let me tell you, we've had the first 6 months of this second term of President Trump has been spectacular, right? The big, beautiful bill went through with everything Trump wanted and more. The border is completely shut down. Illegals are not getting across the border. We have places like Alligator Alcatraz springing up all over the country. The deportations are happening. Everything that he promised is happening. This week, we've had 3 things happen, 2 of them spectacular. What I opened with today at 6, a half dozen Secret Service agents have been suspended that were on Trump's detail in Butler. There's an investigation going on right now into Butler for the first time, a real investigation. And then, of course, we've got the FBI criminal investigation into Brennan and Comey, which I'm going to talk about more in the next hour. That's huge. In fact, let me talk about it now while I mention it. I don't want to forget. Comey and Brennan, what they did against President Trump in the first campaign on is insane. Okay, and I'm not going to go through everything they did, but I want to mention a couple. And some of them, a couple of them, there's 3 things that I'm going to mention. And maybe 2 of them you hear all the time and know. Now, of course, the Russian dossier, that was all them. All them. And Comey's the one that delivered the Russia dossier to the president when he was president-elect to try to get him under control. And if you remember the Russian dossier, the Steele dossier, what it said is that President Trump rented the hotel room that Obama stayed in Moscow when he was there for the Miss Universe pageant, hired 2 Russian prostitutes to play naked with each other, urinating on the bed that Obama slept in while he watched and pleasured himself. And Putin had a video of this. Come on. That's so absurd. When you say it out loud, it's, that's what the Russian dossier said. They ran an operation. They got through an acquaintance, this Englishman who was an acquaintance, I can't remember his name, but he was in the music business, of Don Jr., was able to arrange for Don Jr., and Jared Kushner was there, to send this Russian woman to Trump Tower to have a meeting. Don Jr. and Jared Kushner knew something was stunk about it. They got out of there, and that was their Russian collusion. There was another thing or 2, but I'm not going to go through everything they did, but they did a lot. And the wiretapping on Trump Tower was Brennan and Comey. And also, the wiretap on President Trump did not end when he became president. They found that the West Wing was bugged after Trump was in office. They were listening in on him in the West Wing. And there was actually a cover story for this. If you go back, you can find this. When they found the bugs, the president left the White House, and I can't remember if he stayed at Bedminster or Mar-a-Lago. I think it was Bedminster. It was the summertime. Yeah, it was Bedminster because it was the summer. They had this story that they had to replace the air conditioning units in the West Wing. So the president and his staff had to move the presidency to Bedminster while the AC was being replaced. That was a cover story to get rid of all the bugs that Brennan and Comey had planted to spy on Trump with in the first term. Okay? So these are bad dudes. In fact, most of everything that's happened to Trump has one or both of these guys connected to it. Most everything. Under the leadership of Obama, of course. But these are some bad guys. So to have a criminal investigation against them is huge. We've had one speed bump, and that's Pam Bondi this week. And I want to play this clip. Do I have time? Okay, yeah, I have time. This is Ben Shapiro. Now, full disclosure, I can't stand Ben Shapiro. Okay? Can anybody say that they truly like Ben Shapiro? But I want to play this. I want to talk about this and him.
However, when President Trump speaks for the American people more generally, and he says, guys, don't we have better things to do? You can understand his irritation. The man is trying to negotiate an end to a war in the Gaza Strip. He's trying to negotiate an end to a war in Ukraine. He's attempting to revivify the American economy. He's attempting to crack down on illegal immigration. On a list of American priorities by the polls, the Epstein-Maxwell case comes in pretty close to 0, just on a list of priorities.
Okay. Now, Ben Shapiro, who's a well-known never-Trumper, he thinks, what he thinks he's doing is manipulating the president. He's trying to suck up to President Trump and get in his orbit by praising him all the time because, he's lobbying for the president with Israel. I support Israel. You guys know that. But Ben Shapiro is fake MAGA. and he thinks he's smart enough to manipulate President Trump because he looks down on the president, like all these other never-Trumpers. And he's getting a lot of praise today from people. You can't trust this guy. He hates Trump like the plague. I'm telling you, he hates Trump, and he thinks he's manipulating him. However, what President Trump does with Pam Bondi, I don't know. I don't expect him to fire people. He doesn't want to fire people. You know, the cabinet meeting the other day, Tulsi Gabbard was there. She didn't talk, and I saw her come on the video from time to time at the table. She looked uncomfortable. She looks like she is on the outs with Trump over what she said about intelligence in Iran, about the nuclear facility. He doesn't, if he fires people or they resign this early, it would cause a media scandal. He doesn't want scandal. It'll slow down his agenda. So don't let this PR mess up of Pam Bondi's slow down what Trump is doing. Don't get bogged down in that. Trump knows what's going on. He'll do what he does. But the bigger picture we need to take care of, and we don't want to get bogged down into that issue, or you'll stall the whole presidency. All right, 2 hours down, 1 to go. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. It's Frank from West Palm. How you doing there?
All right,
Brian,
Frank.
you were absolutely correct. LaPorta Roofing was amazingly phenomenal. They just completed my roof last week, and LaPorta Roofing was superb in all ways imaginable when installing the new roof on my residence. Tom LaPorta meticulously spearheaded the entire project from inception through to the finalization of the assignment. Tom handled all the paperwork involving city permits, inspectors, and my community HOA. He was always available, ensuring me that he had my back in all phases of the project. Additionally, Tom, Scott, and Dan, and the entire crew were very well organized with the plan, consistent with all policies and procedures, and craftsmanship was exemplary in all stages of the design execution. Tom, Scott, and Dan maintained continual contact with me, the homeowner, asking if there were any questions I had or anything further I needed. LaPorta Roofing is, in every respect, a stellar, 5-star, AAA, family-owned company that is a reliable, peace-of-mind roofing organization. These guys are spot on with regards to perfection, and they demand it. I remain mesmerized upon the completion of the job. My roof is a masterpiece. And one last thing before I forget, they were the least expensive quote that I received out of 4 quotes for roofing. I thank Tom LaPorta Roofing for all that they do.
Wow, Frank. Well, thanks so much. Tom LaPorta at LaPorta Roofing. He covers both the east and west coast of Florida and everywhere in between. He works with every type of structure, residential, commercial, municipal, and he works with every type of roofing material. Also, don't forget, Tom LaPorta will never sell you a roof you do not need. If you need just a simple repair, he'll do it. He can also handle the job of any size, whether it's a single-family home or an HOA with over 200 units. Give him a call. This number rings directly to Tom LaPorta's cell phone, 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And online, LaportaRoofing.com. Frank, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Brian. You have a wonderful day.
All right, we'll be back in a minute. 1 minute, we'll be back, guys. If you're on hold, hang in there. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. The third hour has begun. I've covered a lot in the last 2 hours. If you'd like to call in, the number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. It's JJ from Mass.
Hey, JJ.
Hey, Renee's act is getting kind of old.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's like a broken clock, except a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
But it's just it's just pretty sad. But I think it's important. Again, it's important for people to see the crazy and to know what's out there. But this Birthright citizenship call that you got, I kind of look at these people. I try to ask a question. If you believe that's the way it should be, I just say, well, if a stranger walks into your house, a pregnant woman, sits on your couch and has a baby, is that baby now part of your family? You don't even know. You don't know the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that's right? How the hell can you think? The Chinese express that they were doing. They were coming over. They were arranging, and there were companies in the United States that were, just like you guys go on your cruise. They were selling this package of, come to the United States and,
Well, here's the thing. At the time, in the 1800s, there was not a lot of international travel. Okay, not like today, because there was no air travel, and they were
Correct.
still, and all of that. So there's obviously, this is being taken advantage of in a way that it was not intended to be. Everybody knows this.
Well, most people do, Brian. I mean, but it's this one caller. He learned something in school. I remember when I was a kid. I don't know if I was 5. I have a memory of tugging on my mom's blouse and just saying, "Mom, don't these people know we live here?" Because there was a picture of it was on Time magazine, I think. The coming ice age is going to kill everybody. That climate change,
That's right.
But in the reverse. And I just said, "Mom, don't they know we live here?" Because we had just had I don't know if it was 1967 or 69. There was we had a blizzard with 3 or 4 feet of snow. And I was like, and I played in that. I lived in that. I said, "What, Mom? We're not going to die, are we?" And it's just crazy.
Well, there's an episode of Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of that was in the late 70s.
Yes.
There was when I remember this blizzard. I was young, but we had a blizzard. The blizzard of 77, 78. It went over New Year's, and they had an episode of In Search Of talking with the leading climate scientist of the day, who were warning about the coming ice age. Right.
Yeah.
So come on. But that's kind of faded away. I mean, even Greta Thunberg, she's now a Palestinian activist, right? She's given up on global warming.
She's realized the grift is up. She's got to move on to the next grift.
Yes.
Before you know it, she'll be working with Al Sharpton.
I don't know. She might become an activist for little people. She looks like she's stopped growing. She looks like a midget. She's shorter than Mary Lou Retton.
She can maybe represent those Secret Service agents.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. All right, appreciate the call, JJ. Some good points. This may. I think more of you will agree with me on this than not. You know who one of my least favorite Republicans in Congress is? Comer. Comer ticks me off. He's always promising and he never comes through. And he did this dog and pony show yesterday with Biden's doctor. Did any of you out there think that we were going to get anything from Biden's doctor? You know, when you talk to your doctor, it's confidential. It's between you and the doctor. Now, I'm going to play Ronnie Jackson, who was, of course, Obama and President Trump's doctor at the White House. He argues against that. But everyone knew that he was going to take that privilege. And then he did take the Fifth Amendment, too. But the reason that I get so aggravated with Comer, he makes all these promises, he gets everybody worked up, and then he never delivers. Remember, he had the proof of the $10 million deposit into the Biden bank account in Cyprus. Oh, yes, Biden's the first vice president since Johnson to go to Cyprus. We got the bank account numbers. He's doing all the Fox shows. And then what became of that? Nothing. And, you know, he likes to get us all worked up. And, oh, I'm doing it. I got it. I got the records. We're bringing them in. And then nothing happens. Just like this doctor yesterday. Did any of you think that the doctor would not say privilege? Of course he would say privilege. And you know what? Even if they said it didn't apply, he would still push it. How could he go through life as a physician if he broke confidentiality? So did any of you think that he was going to talk? Oh, but they're doing illegal things. He was involved in the cover. Well, that's even more reason for him to invoke doctor-patient confidentiality. I mean, come on. You know, and Comer got this whole thing going, and I had Fox on yesterday, and they're acting like, oh, breaking news, and they show the doctor walking down the hallway, and you're supposed to get all jazzed up over the doctor walking down the hallway. I couldn't get myself excited about that. I'm sorry, and I'm sick of Comer and his false hopes, aren't you? Trey Gowdy used to be like this. And the other thing is this. Enough of these closed-door hearings. Why are these hearings happening behind closed doors? Why are they not happening on live television? You know, now Ronnie Jackson, who was Trump and Obama's White House doctor, he commented on this, and he has a different opinion, but I'll share it with you.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ronnie Jackson here from Amarillo, Texas, just chiming in on the news of the day. As many of you know, I was a former physician to the president for President Trump and President Obama. I was a White House physician during 3 administrations, Bush, Obama, and Trump. And I've been asked by a lot of people today, what's going on with Dr. Kevin O'Connor? As you know, Dr. Kevin O'Connor was a former physician to the president for President Joe Biden, and he was subpoenaed to speak before Congress today and give his testimony on his role in the cover-up of President Joe Biden's cognitive decline during his presidency and the potential illegal use of the auto pen. Unfortunately, Dr. O'Connor started and continued his testimony by pleading the Fifth. Very unusual. You have to ask yourself, why would you plead the Fifth if you weren't personally doing something that was illegal or unethical? That's a question that remains, and I think the answer to that question is probably because he was. We won't know exactly yet, but we will find out. He started off by claiming that he had presidential privilege, which President Trump relieved him of and waived that. He had that was not a concern at all at this point. He also said that there was doctor-patient privilege that was looked at by the committee, and we know that HIPAA and the American Medical Association have looked at this issue and said that you can be legally compelled to discuss conversations between a patient and a doctor under the right legal circumstances. This definitely fell into that category. He was being subpoenaed under oath to give testimony before the United States Congress. He did not. I just want to let everybody know this is not over yet. We have lots of whistleblowers out there. We have lots of other people that are...
Okay. Well, so you're not going to get it from a doctor. You know, and here's the thing, okay? This doctor's a creep, all right? The Dr. Feelgood here, okay? He's a creep. You know, I can only imagine what he was prescribing to Biden. However, you know, if you get into this business where doctor-patient confidentiality between White House doctors and presidents is waived, do you know how they're going to use that against us in the future? Ronnie Jackson's a good guy. We all like Ronnie Jackson. He's a great man. But most of these people that become White House doctors are political animals. I don't care what uniform they're in. If they're in the Navy, they're in the Army, whatever branch they're in, they're political people. And most of these people tend, you know, they're either liberal or they're in bed with the establishment. Ronnie Jackson's an exception, okay? And if we started saying, okay, doctors for presidents, no confidentiality, the next president has waived it, do you know what they're going to do to embarrass President Trump and other Republicans in the future. You know, I know for the immediate, you're like, hey, he should have to tell everything. He's a creep. He's a bad guy. Dr. Feelgood here. But if you look beyond the immediate, it's a bad idea. I remember when Rush had his problem, the late, great Rush Limbaugh. They violated his doctor-patient confidentiality and got his private medical records to persecute him. Notice I say persecute, not prosecute. That was a persecution, not a prosecution. And Rush Limbaugh even had the liberal ACLU defending his right for confidentiality and privilege between his doctors and him. Doctors plural, because it was the doctor shopping. And Rush Limbaugh, now I don't know what's happened since, but I remember at the time when it was in the news, Rush Limbaugh was the first case of like that of doctor shopping that was prosecuted. At least here in Florida. I don't remember if it was nationwide or in Florida. It was a political persecution, and it was done because they were able to violate the doctor-patient privilege. You don't want to start doing that. These things lead to very dangerous places. But overall, shame on Comer. Enough with the promises. I am so sick of him. Aren't you? With his promises that go nowhere. You know, there's that bank account stuff with Cyprus. That was huge. What happened to that? Yeah, he got booked on Hannity a few times to talk about it. That's all these congressmen care about is publicity. He's nothing but a disappointment, Comer. And I really tune him out. Another Trey Gowdy. All right. I do want to remind you guys, Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Guys, hey, listen, it's summertime. I know you're heading out to the beach, heading out to the pool, wearing lighter clothes, showing more of your body because of the hot weather. Call Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Lose that weight, no matter how little or how much. Maybe you want to lose 20 pounds. Maybe you want to lose 100 pounds, 200 pounds, 300 pounds. It works, and it was so easy. Eating foods I would normally eat, no prescription medications, and zero exercise. Zero exercise. And not only did I lose much more than I was planning on losing, it was easy. I wasn't hungry all day. I wasn't starving myself. And my results are not unusual. They're quite typical. People are losing 20 to 30 pounds in the first month, just like I did. Give them a call. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel, all right? 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlosssecret.com. We'll be right back. Oh, man. Welcome. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, guys. We'll be back in about a minute. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. You know, I got a couple of audio sound bites I want to play for you. I came across this. This is out of Canada. And I usually don't follow the Canadian news too much. I mean, they're far gone and lost. I mean, they're just a socialist country in Canada that has a lot of hang-ups because, you know, we're here, the United States, and they just are so insignificant, right? Canada compared to us. And I was talking earlier how you don't want to get bogged down on this one big mess up. I mean, it's a big PR disaster from Pam Bondi with all the Epstein stuff this week. You know, of all the things President Trump has done, one of the things he's also done is he's rid us of wokeness. I mean, how many companies have you heard that are getting rid of their DEI? And look at what's happening at the Supreme Court with Ketanji. Ketanji who's obviously a stupid person. I mean, according to her co-justices, and was it Sonia Sotomayor that called her out last time? It was one of the Democrats. She doesn't even know basic law, and she's an associate justice on the United States Supreme Court. She's obviously a DEI appointee and has gotten through life that way. And a lot of people, we used to call it affirmative action. Now they call it DEI. Didn't earn it. But a lot of times, I tell you, there was a famous story that Clarence Thomas talked about. And Clarence Thomas, he said once at some event he was at many years ago, he said, the thing about affirmative action is, people always assume you're not good enough or smart enough, that you just got this position because, and he could say that because he's brilliant. But Ketanji on the Supreme Court is even being called out by liberal Democrats on the court for her lack of knowledge about the basic law. And when you're on the Supreme Court, at that point, you're supposed to be, a brilliant legal mind, and she's the opposite of that. Very, very. But, woke is gone. It's over. One of the many things Trump has done. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll take some calls in a bit. But I got, if you'd like to call in, please do. You're welcome to call in about anything I've brought up since 6 a.m. at 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. But, he rid us of wokeness that was just god-awful. I mean, look at the women's sports, right? What's her name? Leah Dunham? Her records are being totally, is that her name? I forgot her name now. But the records are being totally reversed, taken away, right? We got women's sports back. We don't have generals and admirals and colonels and majors sitting around in women's clothes that are men, sitting around on television showing that we have a weak country, led by these strange people. The end of woke is bigger than you believe because, as bad as all that woke stuff was, it was just the beginning. And if President Trump would not have won re-election, wokeism would have become that would have been it. The country would have been gone. We'd have gone down the rabbit hole. As an example, there's a lot of controversy with this new Superman movie. The director and his idiot brother who's in the movie said it's an immigrant story and we got to love our immigrants. And they changed, what did they change it to? They changed truth, justice, and the American way. They took the American way out. And what did they put? The common good or something? Does anybody remember? I got an article, but I don't have it in front of me that I read about this morning. If nobody can let me know, I'll go and look it up. But they dropped the American way and changed it with the good. I can't remember what the last part was. But see, this Superman movie, which has been getting good reviews, I'm a big Superman fan. I grew up with Christopher Reeve. I saw that in the theater when it came out in 1978. And all of his movies, even that god-awful Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I saw all of the Christopher Reeve ones in the theater. And I watched on TV George Reeves, the TV Superman, when I was young. So but I have less than zero interest in seeing this new Superman movie. And I do want to see it, right? He's got his super dog with him, super pup, got the Green Lantern in it and all this. I was very interested in seeing this. It looks like a good story. And then the director of the movie and his idiot brother say, well, this is an immigration story, and we got to cherish our illegals. Yeah, really? How many undocumented people worked on that film? How many undocumented, non-union people worked on that movie? 0. That's how many. And then they took out Truth, Justice, and the American Way and replaced American Way with something else. And, that movie, this is, this thing about this new Superman movie, it was not made for America 2025. It was not made for Trump's America. We're in Trump's America. Trump has a higher approval rating than even Ronald Reagan had in the 80s, right? He came back after a 4-year hiatus, and he's more popular than he ever was. This is Trump's America. This new Superman movie wasn't made for Trump's America. It was made for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's America, where woke is it, and the American way is a bad thing. These liberals think that the American way is a negative that they don't want to put on their film. Truth, Justice, and the American Way. What is so wrong with the American way? Why are they ashamed of the American way? The American way is the way to be. It's the best way. And they took that out of the movie. So you take that on top of the fact that the director and the director's brother, who's an actor in the movie, are trashing MAGA, trashing Trump, trashing us. Why would I give them 10 cents to see that movie? And I do want to see it. I want to see it so I can talk about it, but I can't get myself to do it because of what they're doing. I'm not a boycott person, so I'm not telling you what to do. But I don't organize boycotts or anything. But it shows you how out of touch the left are. So this clip from Canada that I saw online, it's from a staff sergeant, a woman who's a staff sergeant in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And this woke world where the American way is some type of negative that is a bad news and everything. Canada's where we would have been if Trump had not won re-election. Listen to what this woman says from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
What they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist, and if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist. But
okay, so if somebody is becoming traditional values, if you know someone who is of traditional values, they may be an extremist. What does that mean? They're a terrorist? If somebody wants their daughter to grow up and marry a nice man and have kids, that's a traditional viewpoint. That makes you an extremist terrorist in Canada? And by the way, when you identify these extremist traditional people, right, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to call the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and turn them in because they might be a terrorist? That's crazy. That's new, by the way. That's this week. It was on television in Canada, national television. That's where we would have been. And this new Superman movie, this is not a joke. And if you notice, it's very unusual. This movie, I don't know if the movie's good or bad, but I know it's getting a lot of positive reviews. Why is it getting positive reviews? Because it's woke, and the people that write the reviews are liberals. Just like the liberal weather news people that said there was a 100% chance of rain at the military parade, and it didn't rain. But those same weather people say that the weather service should have known about the flooding in Texas in advance when they were so wrong just about raindrops. Didn't rain a drop in D.C. during the parade. But I don't trust these reviews. Now, if a friend of mine that I know goes and sees the movie and tells me, oh, it's awesome, you got to see this, you got to see that, I'll take that. But I'm not going to trust these liberal Hollywood movie reviewers that are telling me that this anti-MAGA movie that says this is about standing up for immigrants' rights against Donald Trump and MAGA, that's what this movie's about. And oh, by the way, the American way, that's not what Superman's about. That's a bad thing. We've taken that out. Truth, justice, and something else. I'll see if I can find the article to tell you what it is during the break. I don't believe those reviews. Now, again, word of mouth, if somebody I know tells me that I know and trust that, oh, it's good, you should have seen it, this, that, then I'll believe it. But not with this garbage I've been seeing on the red carpets, and not with these fake news journalists that, oh, it's great, you got to see it. BS. BS. All right. Well, let's take our bottom of the hour break, okay? And don't forget, guys, a week from Saturday, that is July 19th, a week from this Saturday, July 19th, come meet me at Attorney Barry Siegel's office for his Medicaid seminar. It's Saturday, July 19th at 10 a.m., and I'll be there early so we can hang out and talk in advance. It's a completely free event, but they do ask that you call to let them know you're coming. Okay, they need to know how many seats and how much space they need in the office. And they'll also give you detailed directions to Attorney Barry Siegel's office. That's Saturday the 19th at 10 a.m. You're all invited. This is my first appearance I've done on a Saturday in a long time. I can't remember the last time. Here's the number, 855-FLA-3782. 855-FLA-3782. And the website has the phone number too, SiegelLawGroup.com. We'll be right back. See if I can find that. If you're a Medicare recipient or about to turn 65, listen up. I want to talk to you about Medicare. Medicare, it's confusing. That's done on purpose, right? You go online, what do you find? More confusion. A lot of people, they try to go it alone, or they deal with someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about, and what happens? It ends up costing them thousands of dollars sometimes each year. And also, they find out maybe their doctors or the medications, they might not be covered either. That's where Chapter comes in. Chapter is the only national Medicare advisor that compares all of the over 24,000 plans out there for you. They'll find the one that's right for you and your budget. And no matter where you are in the United States, Chapter can help. You're going to get answers, you're going to get them fast, and you're going to get them for free. So whether you're on Medicare right now or turning 65 soon, give Chapter a call, 805-754-3033. 805-754-3033. The number's also in the description of the episode. You're going to talk to a real person. They're going to walk you through everything step by step. No gimmicks, just real help. Because the right plan, it can save you thousands. Again, the number 805-754-3033. 805-754-3033. Get your Medicare questions answered free. 805-754-3033. Your health and your wallet will thank you. They've changed it to truth, justice, and the human way. Can you believe this? All right, we'll be back in about a minute. If you want to call in, the number is pinned in the chat. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll take a call or two here when we get back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll take a call or two. I've got much more to cover, and we're running out of time. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. Never Trumper Steve here in Palm City.
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
By the way, I looked this up before you start, Steve. I'm not going to interrupt you, but in the new Superman movie, they've changed truth, justice, and the American way to truth, justice, and the human way. Oh, my goodness. I want to throw up. That's what they've done to George Reeves and Christopher Reeve's memory. All right, anyway, Never Trumper Steve, go ahead.
If that's your biggest problem in life, it's not so bad.
No, it's the liberal poison that's polluting the minds of Americans. The American way is not a bad thing that should be canceled. The American way is the best way. You agree, right?
I don't disagree, but it's not.
I don't disagree. You can't support the American way. Oh, great. All right, what's on your mind?
No, yesterday, but here's your good news. Yesterday, I was trying to become MAGA for the day, and because you had a commercial coming up, you cut it short and said, just call in today, so that's what I'm doing. I wanted to be MAGA, maybe not for the day, maybe not for the hour, but for the 2 minutes I usually get, and having to do with the Epstein matter. When you started your show this morning, to say, let's not get bogged down in this. 2 days ago, your head was ready to explode. And then Trump takes care of this, gives MAGA a new bone, a new shiny object to look at, and that would be the Comey Brennan affair, which is going to go absolutely nowhere. Being under criminal investigation is not being indicted for anything.
Hold on a second. Nobody said indicted. Nobody said indicted, Steve. Right? Who said indicted? Oh, hold on. Did I lose Steve? Hold on. Did I lose you, Steve? Hold on. I lost Never Trumper Steve. Steve, are you there?
I'm back.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. No one said indicted. And, here's the thing, Steve. And maybe, not only, this human way that they've replaced the American way with, part of being human is getting pissed off from time to time. And sometimes you get pissed off and you say and do things, and then you cool off and you think more rationally. Now, I'm still ticked off at Pam Bondi, and she screwed up. Okay, she messed up all about this. But I've cooled off a little bit where I can be reasonable, and we're not going to get the great Trump agenda bogged down on this one issue.
Well, when you say bogged down, it could be an example of flip-flopping a little bit, too.
It's not flip-flopping.
Now, but Pam, I call her Pam Blondie. That's because you make fun of people's names. I'm doing that with her.
Yeah.
The men around her caused her mess. When I say the men around her, you got Patel and Bongino for years making all kinds of money on podcasts and being on Fox, hawking that thing. And then you have Trump. Now, you really think that she made this decision to close the file, that Trump didn't have something to do with it? So she's being hung out to dry from the men around her that's making her look like she's the problem. Now, I will say part of it is her fault for trucking out these group of ultra-right people, you recall, in front of the White House with the binders, phase one, So she instigated that. So she's part of the problem.
You know,
for
see, now this, I'm so glad you called today. By the way, the rest of you on hold, hang in there. I'm glad you called with this today, with yesterday's topic, and this fits into what I just said to you. See how these liberals want us to sit around and talk about Epstein every day, you know, and get the Trump administration bogged down. You're trying to get us back into that. You know, I will, when there's a new development in it.
MAGA loved it.
Excuse
MAGA
me.
loved it.
When there's a new development, I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to get into, I just, you know, I've said what has to be said. She's screwed up and big time, and maybe Bongino and Cash did as well. But without a new development, I'm not going to be talking about it too much. But you want us to talk about it every day. I mean, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened with the conservative influencers yesterday. Okay? Yesterday, this was a big story yesterday morning and the day before. But a lot of people that are influencers, they do shows and things online, on the radio, on television, sometimes multiple times a day. Yesterday afternoon was kind of a slow news day. You know, I podcast, my podcast I do pretty much every day in the afternoons. And I skipped yesterday because it was a slow news day. And let me take a break. There's nothing really news. I've already talked about the Bondi Epstein stuff. But a lot of people like Benny Johnson, Bannon and others, they do 2 or 3 shows a day, and there was nothing else to talk about, so they continued to talk about something that had already been discussed to death, and that's the Pam Bondi Epstein stuff yesterday, to keep it going a little bit longer. And you're going to find that that's going to fade away with a little bit of time.
Unless you keep the pressure on to not make it fade away. That's my whole point.
I'm not putting pressure.
I became MAGA.
Oh, you're putting pressure on?
List.
You're putting pressure on to keep us talking about it? And it's not going to happen.
Not me personally. No, not me personally. I'm talking about MAGA as a group. I mean, MAGA is Trump's supporters, and this was important to them. What Trump did yesterday, maybe.
So now this is interesting. So now this is great. This is great. Now, you're like Ben Shapiro. You think you're going to be able to call in anytime. And you're not manipulating me. I'm manipulating you. You're making my point that I opened the show with at 6. But it's so nice of you to care about the MAGA people and what they want. So you want to help the MAGA people now. I mean, how arrogant
I'm not helping anyone. Yeah. I'm just saying I became MAGA for a moment, and you guys are beyond it because now you want to go on to the new shiny object.
Why can't you say why can't you say the American way is the best way? Why can't you say that? There's no better way than the American way.
Are you changing the subject on me?
I'm the host of the I'm the host of the show. I decide the subject. Except on Friday.
If Trump wasn't on the list, maybe someone was on the list that paid him a couple million
why can't you say that the truth, justice, and the American way is the best way? Why can't you say the American way is the best way?
Because I'm not going to allow you to change subjects.
Change subjects. I was talking about this new. Excuse me. I was talking before the break.
All I have to say. Thank you very much.
Oh, and you're hanging up like a coward? He hung up. See, there you go. He changed the subject. I was talking about this Superman thing before the break. He hung up. He hung up to avoid being put into a position to say the American way is the best way. He knows how it would discredit him if he said it's not, that there's better ways, and he wouldn't be able to tell us where, but he couldn't get himself to say it, and boom, he hung up on himself. I didn't hang up on him. You know, it's interesting. He's always griping that he doesn't get enough time on the air. I'm trying to get him more time, but out of fear of having to say that, he hit the road. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian from Deerfield.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. How are you today?
Right.
You know, you see the damage that of course, there's affirmative action now. It's DEI. The Superman franchise, especially when it came to the movies, that was something I used to love to do. To watch that, I love the whole the comic book and everything.
I will say there was liberalism before in Superman. I saw over the weekend on YouTube they were running all the Superman movies in rotation for like the last week, and I was in and out watching them. And the worst one was the last one, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. And in Superman 4, it was an anti-Reagan movie. I don't remember what year it came out. But Christopher Reeve rid the world of nuclear weapons. Christopher Reeve's Superman took all the nuclear weapons and threw them into the sun. And so that was liberal, but but he's still true justice in the American way, So I'm not going to say there was never liberalism before, but they didn't take away the American way like they've done now. So I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go watch this movie.
Well,
no way.
Yeah, it's real. It's because that would have been a must-see for me to go to the theaters. And now,
Absolutely.
what I would do before I would wait till they came out on cable or something. I won't even watch it on cable.
I've been planning on seeing this
so
movie.
Tired of the DEI.
Months ago, they came out with a teaser trailer where Superman has his dog, Super Pup. The super dog, Krypton. Krypton is Superman's dog is Krypton. Okay, and he has superpowers too. And they came out with this teaser trailer where Superman gets the living tar beat out of him, and Krypton, his super dog, runs up, grabs him by the cape, and at super speed runs him to safety and helps him. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wanted to see Krypton in the movies. And because I grew up on Superman, but I can't go and give this anti-Trump filth money.
No. It spoils the whole show. And you get enough propaganda on the TV. You don't need it when you go to the movie theater too.
That's right.
It's just.
Listen, I got to run for the break, so I'll give you the last word. I got to run.
Okay, then, right.
All right, the last word was okay, Brian. That's fine. All right, we'll be right back. Hey there, hold on. Okay, we'll be back in 1 minute. If you're on hold, hang in there. All right, welcome back. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show. It's time to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated with the Morning Gold and Precious Metals Report. William Youngerman, how the metals looking?
Metals looking good, Brian. They continue to trade in the range that we've seen for quite a while, with good support for gold around $3,300 the ounce and silver $36 the ounce. Yesterday we saw gold trade in a range of $32.83 all the way up to $33.17. And close out the day at $33.12.35. That was up $12.05. Silver closed at $36.31 the ounce, up 36 cents the ounce. Platinum was down $19 at $1,345. and palladium closed up $2 at $1,108. This morning, we've seen gold trade in a range of $3,310 on the low, all the way up to $3,331. And right now, gold's at $3322.75, up $10.45. Silver, $36.62 the ounce. That's up 31 cents. Platinum up $6 at $1,351, and palladium up $37 at $11.45. So the markets are very stable and giving us a little bit of a buying opportunity on pullbacks, but not much.
Yeah, we've been over $3,000 an ounce for a long time now. So what's the new baseline on gold?
Right now, it seems to be around $3,300.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, listen, William Youngerman, you've told us last week there were some really good deals on some of the gold products. How's pre-33 gold looking right now?
Pre-33 is still a bargain and pretty much available at right around the gold value of the coin.
Oh, man.
Tremendous.
That's insanely good. All right. So listen, William Youngerman opens up at 10 a.m. Remember, at William Youngerman's, all the metals are available for immediate delivery. You can stop in at 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. And when you go into the building, William Youngerman is right across the lobby from the bank. You can't miss it. You can give him a call toll free, 1-800-327-5010, 1-800-327-5010. And online, you can find both his phone number and address, WilliamYoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll finish out the week tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day. Thank you.
All right, you take care. You take care. It was really interesting with Never Trumper Steve, how he was so afraid to say that the American way is the only way and the best way and is great. He just couldn't get himself to say anything good about America. But notice how he was desperate to get us to talk about Pam Bondi and Epstein. And I think that a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people will start cooling off today and move on. Not everyone, because there's some people that are, pretty invested and going to continue. And I'm not going to tell anybody what to talk about or not. But, you can see what Never Trumper Steve, who cannot say the American way is the best way, who hung up to avoid saying something good about America, right? Notice how much he wanted us to talk about that. Epstein. He thought we'd still be talking about Epstein and Pam Bondi and be fuming. So what do you think we should do? Move on until there's a new development? Or do what Never Trumper Steve wants us to do when President Trump is doing so much goodness? These employment numbers that came out yesterday, this is the second time numbers like this have come out, and they're getting better every time. Employment since President Trump took office, 2 million new jobs for native-born Americans, 543,000 in the negative jobs for those that are foreign-born, the illegals. That's because of the deportations. I mean, look at what he's doing. It's absolutely amazing. And if we don't move on, and I'm not taking back anything I said, but the president's made a decision, right? And I'm going to follow Trump in this very important and unique presidency that's doing everything we've ever dreamed of and more. You know what I was talking about with Comer earlier, who makes all these promises? Oh, I got the doctor. He's coming in. Oh, I got the Cyprus bank accounts. Biden, $10 million deposit in the Biden's account. First vice president to visit Cyprus since Johnson. It goes nowhere. That's what it used to be like with being a Republican. But they weren't House members. They were like presidents, right? We're going to got it. It's here. We're going to do it. And then they don't do it. They don't deliver. They hype it up and then nothing happens. We've got a president that's a doer. He's doing everything we've always wanted a Republican president to do and a whole bunch more that we never even dreamed possible, like overturning Roe v. Wade, shutting down all illegal immigration, everything else, these great employment numbers, everything. And we're not going to take his lead. He's made a decision that we got to move on from this for whatever reason, but mainly to get his agenda through. And I'm not going to take the advice of Never Trumper Steve. And I'm so glad he called today and illustrated the panic they're in. The panic that they're in is that we're not getting bogged down with this. Now, I saw this online today. By the way, all my show prep, everything I talk about, I post on my X, Brian Craig Show. If you don't follow me there, you should. Brian Craig Show on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And all my show prep is there, even the stuff I don't get to, which is almost all of it, because I never get to everything. But out in California and Los Angeles, they're trying to get a lot of sympathy for the illegals. And they're showing jobs that illegals had that they've either been deported and can't do, or they're in hiding so that their anchor baby children have to do them. Now, I'm going to share this with you, but first, before I do that, today is the very last day to get the free With God All Things Are Possible multi-use MyPillow 2.0 with any purchase with our promo code KANE at checkout, K-A-N-E. This is the MyPillow 2.0 with the temperature regulating technology. It keeps you cool all night long. You'll never flip the pillow over looking for the cool side. With any purchase, no matter how small, you get this free pillow with the great verse from the Bible, with God all things are possible, for free. When you use our promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at checkout at MyPillow.com. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879. 1-800-716-4879. And Mike Lindell's assistant sent me an email a couple days ago. Today is the last day. Okay, so let me get this. This is a girl trying to get sympathy for those that are being deported.
What do the children of street vendors do when ICE threatens their family's income? In 14-year-old Christopher Garcia's case, his mom was afraid of the ICE raids, so Christopher took over.
So I can help my mom, help her sell.
The street cart sells all kinds of tamales, including
chicken, red, green, mole, pork, red and green, chicharrón, queso con rajas, espinaca, dulce and elote.
Okay, now so the accent got really heavy when he goes over the Spanish food names, but so his mother has not been deported, if this story is true, but she's afraid of getting deported, so she sent her 14-year-old kid out to man the family food cart. That's illegal child labor, so she's breaking more laws. And why isn't he in school? Shouldn't he be in school?
Christopher's story went viral last week when AG Theo Joker posted about it on his Instagram.
I found Chris because a friend of mine said, you got to go see this young man over there that's 14 years old selling tamales.
His original goal was actually to raise enough money to take
the kids that are vending for their parents on trips one day out of the week, enjoy an amusement park, bowling, laser tag. I just wanted to give them
So they have their kids working 6-7 days a week, illegal child labor, 14 years old, supposed to be in school, so illegal child labor, underage, skipping school, and we're supposed to feel sorry for these parents?
Distraction.
What has it been like to see the outpouring of support from the community?
The gratitude that I have, it's hard to pour out to each individual, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting Chris and his family. I hope they can...
No, he said supporting, not deporting, right? He said for supporting, not deporting, I think did he say supporting or deporting?
What has it been like to see the outpouring of support from the community?
The gratitude that I have, it's hard to pour out to each individual, but I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting Chris and his family. I hope they can realize what's going on in the city and how it's affecting our youth. In August, when he goes back to school, he needs his education, but what happens now to his mom who needs to make ends meet? What happens to the other vendors? What happens to the 18-year-old that his family was taken from him and he has to care for his little brothers or sisters? I can't wait for us to go on Friday and enjoy Chris's first time ever at Disneyland. Not just Chris, but the other kids that have been affected by the ICE raids that are going with us. Thank you to the community for making this happen.
Hey, Tom Homan, they're going to Disneyland, okay? Tom Homan, get on standby in Anaheim, okay? Oh, my goodness. Wouldn't you like to see Tom Homan at the gates of Disneyland? Okay, so they're out of school for the summer. Okay, so they may not be skipping school that they shouldn't be in, but at 14, manning a cart out on the streets of L.A., first off, it's not safe. He's too young. It's child labor. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. But this story, it's not that I don't feel sorry for the kid. If all that story's true, I feel sorry for the kid. I'm not heartless, okay? However, it shows you how far gone so much of our country is, that in a community like this, that the mainstream thinking is for those of other countries as opposed to Americans, Californians, right? And I don't like to say Los Angelinos. I don't know how long that's been around, but that's too Hispanic for the people of L.A. You know, I'm sorry. You know, that's, you know, would you send your 14-year-old child to go out and work full time when you're able-bodied? Wouldn't you find another way? All right, now tomorrow is Friday. That means Open MAGA Mic Friday. Any and everything on your mind is fair game on the show tomorrow. I look forward to that. That's either the best or the worst show of the week, depending. The show prep's up to you guys. It depends on how good your prep is. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. See you tomorrow at 6 a.m. All right. Well, hey, listen, guys, we're out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, all right? And if you're already subscribed, please like the video and share on your socials, okay? Take care. I'll see you next time. I'm Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk.